Hey guys, Rick Stone here from Stony Acres Gardening. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about cold frames and using cold frames to garden in the wintertime. And as you can tell, it's a nice snowy day. It's actually snowing. I've got my camera all covered in plastic bags so that we could film this. I thought it might be fun for us to come out and talk a little bit about cold frames and what you can actually be growing in cold weather environments in the wintertime. Before we get started, please make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click that notification bell so you get noticed every time I release new videos. Make sure you go follow us over on Instagram as well. We'd love to have you join us there. Okay, so let's talk about cold frames. What are cold frames? So you can see behind me here one of my cold frames. We actually have 3 cold frames that we use in our garden every winter. This year we actually only have 2 because the one that's right over here we planted spinach in, and we planted it twice and it never came up, and so we don't have any spinach this year, which is a bummer, but we do have some other things that I'm going to show you here in this cold frame. So let's talk about what a cold frame is. Essentially, a cold frame is a box that we make, and then it has a glass or plexiglass lid on it that protects our crops from frost, from wind, and from cold winter temperatures so that we're able to continue to harvest well into the wintertime and even longer in some areas. Here in our garden, we're at zone 6 and we're able to have something to harvest from our cold frames all winter long. And I know a lot of people who live in even colder areas than me, zones 5, zones 4, who are able to do the same thing. So a lot of fun to be able to grow in a cold frame. So you can make the box itself out of a lot of different things. Ours are made out of wood, and I think wood is probably the best choice. The reason why I like wood is because I'm able to take them apart. So these boxes don't stay in my garden all year long. They actually end up being taken apart in the spring, and we put them away, and then we'll bring them back out in early winter each year. And so the wood is really nice for that. But you could make them out of brick. You could make them out of, I know people that have just used like straw bales. The idea is that the wood or the box itself is going to protect from the cold, and it's going to protect from the wind, okay? Then we have some type of glass lid, and ours are made out of plexiglass, so I've built a wood frame and put plexiglass inside those wood frames. I know a lot of people who will just make them out of old storm doors, old windows, things like that. The advantage of a plexiglass frame is it's slightly lighter, so it's easier to handle and a little bit easier to deal with, and it doesn't break quite as easily. Now, it's definitely not bulletproof. I've broken a few of these over the years, but it's better than glass. But the idea is that we just have some type of clear material, okay, that is insulative, and so the plexiglass or the glass is going to insulate, but also still allows sunshine to come through on the sunny days to help our plants to grow and to stay warm, okay? One other thing that we do with the boxes is usually we make them taller in the back than we have them in the front. So our wooden boxes are made out of 2x12s and 2x8s. So the back is 12 inches tall, the front is 8 inches tall. So that gives a little bit of a slope, which lets more sunlight in. And we slope that to the south here in the northern hemisphere so that we can get more sunlight in, okay? So that essentially is a cold frame. And cold frames are really good for extending your growing season. Even if you're not crazy like me and want to be gardening in the middle of the winter when it's snowing, there's still a lot that cold frames can do for you. So cold frames will easily add 6 weeks to either end of your growing season. So you can plant 6 weeks earlier in the spring. You can continue to harvest 6 weeks later in the fall if you use a cold frame. But if you really want to get hardcore like me, you can grow all winter long. Even in zones as cold as like zone 4, you can grow things. But you can't just grow anything. So we have to be very selective about the plants that we are actually growing this time of year. They need to be super hardy plants. And so here we're talking about things like spinach, kale, Swiss chard, Mache, Claytonia. There's a Chinese green called Tatsoi that's very hardy. There are a few lettuces that are super hardy. We call them winter lettuces. The variety that I like is called winter density. Those will do really well and will be super hardy. And then the other thing that is really, really hardy and does really well in the wintertime is carrots. And that's what I actually have growing here in this cold frame is carrots. So if you choose some nice hardy varieties, then you should be able to grow all the way through the wintertime, even in those colder zones, zones 4, zones 5, should easily be able to grow a lot of those hardy crops through the winter in a cold frame, okay? The other thing that I will do when it gets really cold is I will put a extra layer of fabric row cover inside as well. So you can see that I've got some fabric row cover here as well. That just adds some additional protection to our plants. So that's a good idea to do as well. So let's talk about timing, because there's not a lot that grows this time of year. So it's mid-December for us. We're almost to the shortest day of the year. Our daylight here in Utah is about, we're hitting about 9 hours and 20 minutes of daylight a day right now, which is not enough for anything to grow. So in the wintertime, we don't have a lot of growth to our plants. The only two exceptions to that would be Mache and Claytonia. They will continue to grow under those low light conditions, but everything else kind of just sits during the wintertime. So the idea, in order to have crops to harvest in the wintertime, is you have to plant them earlier in the fall so that they are mature and ready to go when the cold weather arrives. And then we cover them with a cold frame and protect them, kind of keep them in cold storage all winter long, and we're able to harvest throughout the season fresh greens and root crops during the wintertime season. So the target date for planting most of those crops is going to be about 6 to 8 weeks before your first frost date. So for us, that means we're planting somewhere between August 1st and August 15th. These carrots that I'm going to show you here in just a minute were planted on August 1st, and they're now mature and ready to be harvested in December, and we'll continue to do that kind of, you know, throughout the winter. Okay, so that's the idea. Plant hardy crops and plant them at the right time so that you can then cover them with a cold frame and keep them in cold storage over the winter months. A lot of fun. I've been doing this now. This is my 12th season of growing in the wintertime, and I've had something in my garden 365 days a year for 12 years now, which is cool. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so let's look at this bed. I'm going to swing you over here, and I'll actually show you some carrots, and we'll harvest a few carrots for you. All right, so I'm not even sure how much of me you're going to be able to see here, but I want you to be able to see the carrots. We'll kind of check and see what it looks like. So these carrots, again, were planted on August 1st, and you can see that they're nice and mature now and are doing well. One nice thing that I want you to notice is, despite the fact that we've been in the 20s and even seen some teens, the soil in the cold frame is not frozen, and so it makes it easy to harvest those carrots. The variety that we grow is called Littlefinger. We grow that for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a short maturing variety, so that means that it is ready fairly quickly, which is what you need in the fall. The other thing is we have fairly clay soil, and smaller carrots seem to do better for us. So Littlefingers at the most get 3 to 5 inches long, so don't expect me to be pulling some giant carrot out here. So let's just pull a few here, and we'll kind of just harvest all through the winter. And you can see, look, nice one. That's a really nice carrot. So we'll start usually in mid-November and harvest just a little bit in November and December, and then we usually will hold off and save most of these for January and February, because by then we're pretty much done with our lettuces and our other greens, and this is what we're harvesting from our garden during those months. So ton of fun. I love having, oh look, just a little short one there. Thought that one was going to be bigger. So ton of fun. I love being able to harvest in the middle of the winter when it is snowing. It's a blast. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, learned a little bit about cold frames. If you've got any questions, please let me know. Leave them in the comment section. I'll pay attention here for the next few weeks. Make sure that I get your questions answered. If you would be interested in learning a little bit more about winter gardening, I actually have a free mini course that you can go watch. It's called the Year-Round Gardening Mini Course, and there's a link in the description of this video that you can click on to go sign up for that. And again, it's free, about 40 minutes long, kind of giving you an introduction to what you can actually be doing this time of year in your garden. So fun little course. All right, so that is all I have for you for this week. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Go follow us over on Instagram as well. We'd love to have you join us there, and we'll talk to you next week. Happy gardening.